Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Groot Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples Ginos, originator of the Zero-G draft strategy, and this podcast, I'm going to talk about some of the biggest hot shots and have-nots of the early season. Let's get it. And even though I faked him out on the intro, I do have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here with me. Blake, I'm scared to ask, but how are you feeling tonight?
I'm just happy to be here, big dog. All right. I don't mind riding Nate's coattails, folks. It's brought me this far, and I'm excited to see how far it's going to take me. So I'm glad I hitched myself to this shooting star, folks. I'm excited to do this. Have we done a flagship show?
Not yet.
This is the first one? No, damn. I love this stuff. I feel like this show, we're a bit more off the cuff, kind of quick takes, whereas I feel like there's a lot of preparation that goes into the other shows. And this one, we don't give a damn, folks. All right. We don't care. All right. You're getting raw, unfiltered Nate and Blake, or as we like to call ourselves, Blate. Right, Nate? Is that work?
I think we can workshop that one. Maybe a little bit more time.
It's not the best.
In the workshop before we get there. But yeah, Blate. I
Blate.
don't know. I'm getting like plate out of that. I'm getting like slate out of that. It just feels like pretty bland.
No, it goes right. It just cuts like Blate. We're here. I don't know. I guess you're Nathan. So Nate fake.
That's much better. Yeah, definitely.
It's terrible. Hit us up in the comments, folks. You got any nicknames for a combination of Blake and Nate together? We would really appreciate your creativity. Okay.
Yeah, and it can't be bland because our relationship is anything but bland. So it has to work, or else it will not be good enough to describe what we have going on here. Mm-hmm. Something else that we should describe for the listeners is the Newsies. And there are a lot of Newsies somehow already since the waiver wire show that we just did. Rickard Rakell broke his hand out 6 to 8 weeks. That's no good for Pittsburgh. That is a team that can't afford to lose him. Anthony Mantha got power play 1. Philip Hollander was on line 1 in practice today on Sunday, which is, that's about how bad it gets that fast in Pittsburgh without Rickard Rakell in the lineup. So tough look there, but Anthony Mantha, power play 1, do you have any interest, Blake?
I mean, you kind of have to at this point after what he's been able to do, but I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all. Like Justin Brazeau, no. Justin Braz, no. All right. Now I'm cooking. All right. Now I'm starting to get there. But yeah, you kind of have to ride strike while the iron's hot. And I think, get like Mantha looks good here. Malkin is still playing well. If he's up on power play 1, I'll take a ride.
All right. Well, Roman Josi is week to week with an uppy body injury, and that's also for a team that really can't afford to lose him. Well, the only good news here, I guess, is that it is the team clarified right away. This is not POTS related, not related to his underlying condition. So at least that much we can feel good about. That it's not something that may, linger and continue and force him to have further complications down the road. Brady Shea, power play 1 in his absence. Can I interest you in some Brady Shea, Blake?
I picked him up in one spot, right? But I feel, and I don't know if you're this way too, Nate, we might have talked about this already, but I faded D a lot this year. Like I just wasn't getting the top guys. So I ended up, kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. So with my current roster construction on defense, Brady Shea looks pretty good. I'm like power play 1 Brady Shea on the Predators. Sure. Okay, great. Like for reference, like I've got Letang in spots. I got Rasmus Anderson. Like these are the style of defensemen I'm rostering in some pretty high level leagues. So I don't know. Brady Shea, he's A-okay.
All right. Now we're cooking. Now we're really cooking.
Now we're going. We're rolling. Yeah.
All right. Let's see what you come up with there. Patrick Laine, who underwent core muscle surgery, will be out 3 to 4 months. Not that you're rostering Patrick Laine anywhere, but if there was any question about who is going to be on that top power play in Montreal, we got one piece of that puzzle removed for the foreseeable future. good news, I guess, for Ivan Demidov owners and potentially Bolduc. If Bolduc gets back there, you at least don't have the Line A specter looming over your shoulder, even though they haven't really gone his way. It did kind of seem in the early going this year like they were just going to let Line A fade to the background in this. I believe it's the final year of his contract there in Montreal. Willie Nylander did miss Saturday's game, was in the warm-up, but was taken out of the lineup. Nick Robertson got a line one look and a goal in his stead. Nick Robertson is actually pretty famous amongst Leafs fans for doing this. He gets scratched and he has like 6 goals in the 9 games he comes back in after getting scratched or some ridiculous stat like that. So I don't know why they don't just scratch him every other game and play him every other game and just reap the benefits of his like 50 goal pace when he's in those games. But
or just put him on power play 1. What does Nicky Bobby got to do? He's actually pretty good, but he doesn't get any offensive, run.
Yeah, I think Robertson's main thing is like the handles. Like it seems like the puck just bounced off his stick so much, and he's small, right, too. So it's hard for him to win some of the board battles against bigger guys. But that shot is truly elite, so we do love that. All right, moving right along, we got Dylan Strome, who left the game Saturday with a lowy body injury. He did take a turn on the ice during a TV timeout, but then he left again and didn't come back. So I guess the fact that he came back out onto the ice is maybe a positive sign overall, but yeah, we don't have any news. We'll probably get something here on Monday. Mikael Granlund also left his game with a lowy body injury as well. These lowy body injuries are contagious.
Rampant.
I don't know if you've heard this, Blake, but they can be transmitted across state lines. Down there in the United States. But yeah, again, no update here. We should get one on Monday. And then your favorite Matchbox 20 lead singer, Rob Thomas, suffered an uppy body injury, and the Blues promptly disintegrated, allowing 6 unanswered to Detroit after jumping out to a 4-0 lead. That was a tough watch for anybody who is a St. Louis Blues fan, not a Detroit Red Wings fan, which is what I was going to say. Yeah, that's a tough look. Thomas is one of the few things that has been really working. The points maybe haven't been there, but I think Thomas is kind of the biggest engine there that we know of in St. Louis. So that would be a tough one if he misses any time. Again, no information. Welcome to the NHL.
Help us out.
Moving over to Dallas, Rupe Hintz missed Sunday's game after taking a wild headshot from Taylor Hall, who left his feet to make contact with Hintz's head. Not the cleanest hit I've seen in my life, but hopefully all the best for Rupe Hintz, and he doesn't have to miss too long, but you should prepare yourself with other options for this week. Quinn Hughes is day-to-day, missed the game Sunday here with a lowy body injury. Apparently, they are contagious even across country borders going up into Canada.
It happens. It happens, folks. Gotta stay safe out there.
Stay safe out there. Use protection. Keep yourself away from these lowy body injuries.
Have your pets spayed and neutered as well. All right. Very important.
Jacob Markstrom backed up Jake Allen on Sunday. Should be back in the rotation here soon. In my mind, he's still the 1A at a minimum here. That's my take on it. I don't know, Blake, do you think Jake Allen has played himself into more of a 50-50 situation or even more here?
Hell no. All right, but he's done an admirable job. This is why they have him there, right? You get Markstrom go out, and he's played very, very well. The Devils are a wagon. They're clicking offensively. It's just been a nice run here for Allen, but I think once Markstrom is truly good to go, we're going to see that kind of 60-40 split again, I think.
All right. That does it for Newsies. Let's get into some hot shots.
Oh, yeah.
There is nothing else we could do than to start this segment off with Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller. So the way that the player evaluation tool works is that it has to use the previous 5 games, so we don't have the results from the game here earlier today that Utah was in. So you can mentally add those numbers to these totals if you'd like to. Nick Schmaltz did grab another power play assist in this game against Winnipeg, this 3-2 win against Winnipeg. So he stays hot, but prior to that, the last 5 games, he had 7 goals and 5 assists for 12 points in those 5 games. Unbelievable stuff. Over 19 minutes average time on ice.
Yeah.
He is 29th in shots in that span, 12th in individual expected goals for per 60, 32nd in on ice expected goals for per 60. Just absolutely bonkers stuff from Nick Schmaltz. Not the guy that everybody was expecting to have a big year. Like, even us at the beginning of the year, we liked Utah a lot. We thought Nick Schmaltz might be the guy to get kind of pushed out of this top power play with some of the other options that they had there. But he's like arguably one of the biggest parts of that power play at this moment in time, which is wild to say. Clayton Keller also obviously playing same line, same power play. He's got 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in the 5 games prior to today's game. He's playing less minutes, actually, down just over 17 and a half. 61st shots per 60, 59th individual expected goals for per 60, but 18th in on ice expected goals for per 60 in those 5 games. He's doing stuff, looks really good. And then we got to throw in Logan Cooley here as well. Cooley also had a nice little game here for himself again today with an assist on another 3 shots. But in the 5 games prior, same span as we talked about with Schmaltz and Keller, Logan Cooley had 6 goals, 9 points, just over 17 minutes average time on ice, but 49th shots per 60, 35th in individual expected goals for per 60, and 39th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Blake, can anyone stop the Utah Mammoth right now?
And they've won 7 in a row. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is, we wax poetic in the offseason trying to, see what's what. And obviously teams like Anaheim and Utah and San Jose, they're all teams that we were excited about, like cautiously excited. But man, Utah has come to play this season. It's unbelievable. Nick Schmaltz is really the big surprise for me there. Like, we know him so far up to this point in his career as kind of a facilitator, right? And a pretty damn good one. I'm not even gonna he's an underrated guy. He's under rostered half the time, but yeah, he's always been a good facilitator. He was part of the reason why Clayton Keller was able to have a 90-point season, because he has access to Nick Schmaltz and vice versa. But Nick Schmaltz this year, 18th overall in shots to go over 60 on the season. And it's a reasonable sample size. It's 9 games. So it feels like, the head coach there, Andre Torini, is found something in Schmaltz, and he's at the end of passes as opposed to more of the connector type players. So I'm really big into Nick Schmaltz right now. I think, like, obviously, if you picked them up, you probably picked them up off waivers, or you picked them up with one of your last couple picks. Like, oh, sure, I'll take a ride. But I mean, this guy's obviously a must roster player, and I'm having a hard time seeing how that's going to go away, really. Like, I dug in on their line a little bit here. The line of Schmaltz, Hayton, and Keller is 3rd overall in the league. This is according to moneypuck.com at expected goals for percentage at 69.8, right? And then right behind him in 13th overall in the same metric, Peterka, Cooley, and Gunther. They're 61%. So these guys are caving other teams in. They're getting a ton of chances, and they're limiting chances on the other end. So the fact that they've been able to do it over 9 games, like, I think that's here to stay. Some level of that, obviously, there could be a little regression there, but this is a very offensively minded team, and they're cooking right now. They're feeling their plums, and I'm excited to see what the Utah Mammoth can do here.
Yeah, I think you have to adjust expectations for Schmaltz. I do think that this is a player who sometimes does get hot like this and then tails off a little bit. I don't think this will last forever, but he's made a huge case for himself here that he is that big of a portion of this team to stay on line 1, to stay on power play 1. And if he does that all year, and if this is really the best version of the Utah Mammoth that we've ever seen, which I think it's pretty hard to argue that this isn't the best version, then I think there is a ceiling for Nick Schmaltz that we didn't see at the beginning of the year. And I don't like to, make big changes to my mental estimation of a player this early into a season, but when you see something this extreme, I think that is a sign that you should take. And I do think Nick Schmaltz has 70+ point potential at the minimum at this point if this deployment and this usage keeps up. Let's move over to San Jose. Macklin Celebrini. I mean, what can we say about him? Again, prior to this game here against, who did they play today? Minnesota, that's right. I was watching the game for a bit. Another 3-point outing for Macklin Celebrini. He had a 5-point game against the Rangers the other night. Just monstrous outings from Macklin Celebrini on the regular now. In those 5 games prior to this 3-point outing, he had 5 goals and 9 points, over 20 and a half average minutes on ice, and 35th in shots per 60, 58th in individual expected goals for per 60, down at 109 in on ice expected goals for per 60. So that is worth noting. Like, he is still, as we knew, right? This isn't news to anybody, but he does have to be the engine. It just looks like Macklin Celebrini is completely capable of being a number 1 center in the league and dominating other people's number 1 center at this ripe age of 19 years old. So just really special stuff from a really special player that we were obviously very in on. We love to see it. Wanted to call it out here. He is also raising the ceiling for other players. Like Will Smith had 5 points in the 5 games there. William Eklund had 4 points in the 5 games, and then he went off for 3 points in this game here today. What are you seeing from the San Jose Sharks? Do you think, how much of this do you think is sustainable here for them moving forward? How much do you think Celebrini can drag this team into fantasy relevance?
It's hard to say, obviously, but I do feel like they're redlining for sure. Like it's if you dig in on some of the expected goals metrics for the team, like it doesn't look good, right? On the year at 5-on-5, their expected goals for, they're 31st overall in the league, right? But they're scoring a ton. They're 12th overall in finishing. So that's going to level off, right? If they don't get more expected goals, like that finishing is going to fall off at some point, and we're going to be looking at donuts, right? But while it's going, I mean, this is amazing. I think it says a lot about Celebrini, just what type of player he is, like, because like exactly like you said, he's dragging this team, he's dragging his line mates into fantasy relevance just with his talent, right? And something that's different about Macklin Celebrini as opposed to a guy like Connor Bedard, Celebrini can play defensively as well, like really well. Not like Bedard's a muffin out there, but Celebrini is a two-way player, and he always has been. So I think I'm just such a huge fan of the player. We talked about him a lot, the micro stats, all those things jumping off the page. It's just I'm expecting a drop off here. Maybe not from Celebrini, but from the team in general. Like, I don't think they can keep up this goal scoring pace. I looked at some of the lines here, like Corsi forward percentage. It's not good, especially Celebrini's line. Like at 5-on-5, they're 44%. And that's to Foley, Celebrini, and Smith, right? So they're getting caved in terms of shot attempts out there, but they're finishing at a really high rate. So that's, all that to say, yeah, I love Celebrini. I wish I had him, right? I think he was a real smash at in the 4th round. Like, did you get him anywhere, Nate?
No, I didn't end up with Celebrini anywhere. I came very close. I forget which league it was, but he was sniped 1 pick before me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was hoping to get Celebrini somewhere, but missed him just by a little bit. Obviously, we were huge on him, and I'm glad to see he's doing really well. I was trying to come up with like a historical comp. I was trying to do this in the off season too, like trying to give people, comps are always imperfect, but trying to give people some expectation of, another player that I could name that people be like, oh yeah, I can kind of like give myself that kind of mental trajectory. And like, I've heard people, like, even when he was getting drafted, talk about like Jonathan Toews, but like he just buries Toews in terms of the offensive potential. Like maybe more like Datsuk, but Datsuk, at least in my remembrance, and maybe Red Wings fans will kill me for this, but in my remembrance, he wasn't like an elite defensive player like from the second he stepped into the league. He kind of grew into that a little bit more over the course of his career. So I really have struggled to like just find a comparison for Macklin Celebrini, which is really exciting. I just think it's a really, really unique player who excels at both ends of the rink and is dragging his team into the fight every single night, and I love to see it. All right, moving along. Anders Lee, 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points in the last 5 games. He's doing this with less than 13 and a half minutes average time on ice, 9th in shots per 60, 8th in individual expected goals for per 60, 27th in on ice expected goals for per 60. It's a really weird stat line for Anders Lee right now, and I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest with you. I did pick him up in one spot. It's a pretty competitive league, so he was kind of the best available of this terrible streaming week, right. And I had the ad to make ahead of time, so I did pick him up. he is playing with JGP, Jean-Gabriel Pajot, and Simon Holmstrom on the third line. That's why the even strength minutes are down and power play 2. So he's not getting any of that. But Anders Lee has always been a guy who's been a net front player, generates those chances. Now he's generating some assists, and the underlying metrics are still looking pretty good. So I think, I don't think he's more than a streamer, but he might have another decent year here in a year where we kind of thought the Islanders might just completely go away and Anders Lee would be a casualty of that.
Yeah, I mean, we have to put some respect on this man's name. It's crazy. Like, he's not getting the minutes, and that's really what's going to cap him here. That's really what's keeping us from being in on Anders Lee, right? Like, he's averaging 14 minutes, 24 seconds. That show ain't no good, right? But yeah, like you said, it's interesting to see the assists. I mean, digging in on the Islanders in general, they're the best finishing team at even strength in the entire league, right? Their expected goals for is 22nd. Their actual goals for is second at 5-on-5. So, that's going to come down. Also, their defensive environment is absolute trash. But I mean, they have Ilya Sorokin playing out of his mind, like keeping them in games. It's not a team I'm excited about. I think we're going to get a real glimpse into what the Islanders look like here this upcoming week because they have a good streaming schedule. And Islanders players are not commonly on our teams, right? So we're actually going to be a little bit invested into the Islanders, be like, okay, what does this look like? Like, maybe you watch a game, maybe you watch some Islanders and see what's what, because the underlying metrics here, they don't really favor the Islanders. And Lee in particular, they don't favor him. Like, this is a guy that, in the last 5 seasons, he's double-digit shooting percentage. Last year, he was 12.5. This year, he has 8 points in 8 games, but he's only shooting 8.7%, which is pretty low for him. So this team is really cooking at 5-on-5, but Lee individually is not. So yeah, all that to say, I think he has to be added for this week because of the good schedule for the New York Islanders. And you're going to get, if he's not scoring, you're going to get some bangs. You get some reasonable shots, good hits. Like, he's got 7 blocks in 8 games. So he's looking good out there. He's also a captain. I like that. I have a little soft spot for the captain. You don't make a guy a captain if he's he's not there to play. Like, he's not a gamer out there every night, sometimes last minute, of games. Like, I like Anders Lee. This is going to go away. And I think pretty quick. I don't see him getting close to the 54 points he got last year, just simply because of the minutes.
Let's move along to Chicago, where Ryan Donato, before this game that's just wrapped up between Chicago and Los Angeles, where he did not garner a point. He had 5 goals and 7 points in the last 5 games, just under 15 minutes average time on ice. The underlying metrics looking pretty good. 57 shots per 60, 28th individual expected goals for per 60, 49th on ice expected goals for per 60. And Ryan Donato is a guy we liked in the offseason when we thought that he had a pretty good inside path to being on Connor Bedard's line and on power play 1. And that has not come true at all. He's been mired on the third line with Jason Dickinson for most of the year. Now, Tyler Bertuzzi has been out for this game here, so he moved up with Teravainen and Nazar on the second line. But it was Nick Foligno on the top power play, so they still didn't get Donato up on the top power play there. Are you getting any warmer on Ryan Donato? Do you think we were right about the player, just wrong about the deployment? Where do we stand with Ryan Donato at this point in time? I know he's not really more than a streamer, and he won't be unless he does get line 1 power play 1 in Chicago. But where are you at on the player himself now?
Yeah, I like the way you put that. Like, we're right about the player, wrong about the deployment. It's kind of baffling to me that they would lock him up, for a good contract, decent term, and not put him in a situation that he had that got him the contract.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's weird. But as far as, players go for streamers, this guy's great, right? He's triple eligible, which is excellent. And yeah, if he is able to stay in the top 6 there, even power play 2, like, that'll play for a streamer. But we want more than that. We know what Donato can do. This guy's a per-minute beast. He's a metrics guy, or has been in the past. I mean, this season, still looking pretty good. 47th overall in shots to goal per 60. 22nd overall in chuck and pucks per 60. That's pretty damn nice. I like that. And the other metrics are good too. It's just, we can't get too excited about the player until we know that he's going to get put in a position to do something for fantasy. And right now, that's not it. This is a guy that's had over 100 hits 2 seasons in a row. So that's something that you can probably rely on with him. But yeah, the funny thing is, he's on a 64-point pace right now. He was on a 64-point pace last year. So what do we know? I don't know. Maybe he'll just walk into 64 points on line 3 power play 2. But the data indicates that he might not. So I don't know. Yeah, good streamer. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think that's about it. If Ryan Donato does get back there, I'd be very interested. Until then, he's just a streamer. The Jeff Blashill effect in full force there for Ryan Donato. And moving over to Boston, Mason Lowry has a goal and 5 points in his last 5 games, but just over 17 minutes average time on ice. He does have like the on ice Corsi for looks pretty good. The on ice scoring chances for looks pretty good. Everything else looks pretty poor. I'm personally thinking this is just a blip on the radar and nobody should be rushing out to grab Mason Lowry, but I did see him picked up in a few spots. So just wanted to get your temperature, Blake. Do you think there's anything more here? Do you think Mason Lowry is going to start knocking on the door for like Charlie McAvoy's power play 1, for example?
No, I don't think so. I think if McAvoy gets injured, then yeah, just like last year, we're interested in Mason Lowry. I think there's some potential here, but he's averaging less ice time this year than he did last year early, right? But he had 1932 last year. He's averaging only 18 this year. I'm just not here for that kind of defenseman, like that sheltered sort of offensive defenseman. Yeah, it's a good stream, but as far as holding someone like that on your roster, I'm not into it. I don't know, but yeah, this is a good player. I think he's heir apparent really for Charlie McAvoy if he can, maybe just kind of round out sort of more of the defensive part of his game. But yeah, and get some periffs for God's sake. Actually, 14 blocks in 10 games. That'll play. All right. Shout out to you, Mason Lowry. You're a beautiful and unique snowflake.
All right, that's gonna be it for the hot shots.
Way hot.
Patreon plug while we can. Supporter tier over on Patreon, $2 a month gets you eligibility for the Apples Ginos Patron League. We are full. We are playing that league currently, but if you want to join the waiting list and potentially get a team, if anyone drops out this year, you could potentially get a team there. It'll be first come, first serve. Whoever's first on the waiting list gets first opportunity. You can get in on that and maybe improve your standing in the APL for next year.
And in life.
And in life. Yes, I should always mention that. Yeah. Apples tier, $8 per month, gets you APL eligibility as well, but also gets you a host of other things, including access to Patreon-only Discord channels and monthly live shows. Gets you access to show notes, including these show notes for this flagship show, which include Blake's lovely commentary on me missing him in the intro. And you can also get yourself the Apples Ginos player evaluation tool. It's this lovely document that I'm showing on the screen here on YouTube, showing Logan Cooley and his monstrous numbers over the last little bit. It's definitely going to help you make roster decisions. We've got a tab there for you to compare two players head to head. We've got another tab there for you to load in a whole bunch of players if you're choosing between a bunch of players for your waiver wire decisions. You can do that as well. That's what I use it for pretty commonly. So definitely you'll want to check that out as well. For $15 a month, if you really want to give us that kind of money and attention, we will give you our attention. Blake or I will make sure that all of your questions are answered, guaranteed. Won't we, Blake?
Guaranteed. All right. You're going to like the way you feel. I guarantee it. Okay.
All right. And with that, let's move over to have nots. These are some of the coldest players around the league, and we got to start here with Moritz Seider. Things have not been going Seider's way here. He's got no points in his last 5 games. He's got only 2 assists in 9 games on the season. Still getting close to 25 minutes a night. He's 16th amongst defensemen in shots per 60, but 52nd in individual expected goals for per 60, 72nd in on-ice expected goals for per 60, which is not that nice. Detroit has been winning, but Seider hasn't been scoring. What's going on there, Blake?
I think it's power play. Power play is where, like, we know what kind of player Moritz Seider is. He plays some of the toughest minutes in the NHL at 5-on-5, right? He's playing up against the hardest competition. So I don't think either of us really expect a bunch of points in that situation. But this Detroit power play was insane last year. They were amazing. I don't remember what it was, like, second overall in expected goals for, per 60, really nice stuff, legit power play. And Moritz Seider was the quarterback and he got 24 points. Well, this year, I mean, his only 2 points are on the power play, right? He's doing nothing at even strength. And the Detroit Red Wings power play is 18th overall right now, as opposed to being like a top 5 unit last year. So I think that's going to come around, but I think that is really what's holding Seider back, because he's a very consistent guy. He is who we think he is. It's just, yeah, if that power play production falls off, now we're looking at a 35 to 40 point defenseman instead of a 40 to 45 point defenseman. And yeah, I'd like to see those periffs come back a little bit. I feel like there's been a little drop off there. So that is obviously a big piece of his value. And that's something that hasn't been there, which has been a little bit surprising.
For sure. Yeah, I think we've kind of set our piece on Moritz Seider over the years on this podcast. There was a time where everybody was super excited about him, and we were trying to pump the brakes a little bit because he's never been an efficient offensive producer, even in those big minutes. And so it really does come down to that power play. I think, Raymond being out for a bit, now Kane being out for a bit, that power play just hasn't gotten the five guys back, the band back together, for lack of a better term.
Shout out to Five Guys Burgers.
Shout out to the band. And they just haven't been able to get it going. So I think with some time, that should start to get going. Seider will be better, but definitely, I think I projected him for right on 50 points maybe at the start of the year, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think at this point, you definitely have to just maybe take a little bit of a step back from that into the 45, 46 point range, which is where he's really lived for most of his career, if you go back and look. So it wouldn't be that surprising either. Let's move right along to Steven Stamkos. 1 goal in his last 5 before the game here this evening. No assists, and he got nothing here in this game against the Dallas Stars. So it's getting worse, not better for Steven Stamkos. 17 and a quarter minutes average time on ice in that span, 105 in shots per 60, 65th in individual expected goals for per 60 is not too shabby, and 98th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Steven Stamkos, Nashville in general, this last game he was playing on a line with Tyson Jost and Luke Evangelista. It's so hard to get excited about anything that's going on in Nashville. Now you have Roman Josi out, which is Forsberg and Josi are the two things that make that offense go, and Stamkos is not on a line with Forsberg right now, which means he has no access to one of the primary puck carriers on this team, except for on the power play, which has not worked for Nashville much either at any point in the last year plus now that we've seen it since Stamkos joined them. So all that to say, it's really hard to see a ceiling scenario for Steven Stamkos. I think he should be better. The individual expected goals for 4 per 60 is still pretty good, all things considered. I just don't know that there's some huge potential, and especially if he's not going to even get the 19-minute treatment. If he's not even going to be treated like he is a star on this team by his own coach, then it's going to be hard for us to do that as fantasy managers. In shallower leagues, 10-team leagues, he should be dropped, in my opinion, at this point. Most likely there's a better option out there for you, somebody who's hot at the moment. In 12-team leagues, you're probably trying to hang on because there's probably not a lot of power play 1 guys kicking around out there who shoot the way that Stamkos can when he's right. But I'm not going to fault anyone if somebody comes available and you're like, Stamkos is the guy that's got to go to make it happen. And I'm not going to fault anyone for moving on at this point. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. He's approaching drop territory in 12-teamers, which is rough. He's got triple eligibility. He's been good peripherally in the past, but geez, the shots are down the way they were last year in Nashville. So he hasn't found his legs at even strength there. And then this Nashville power play, that's really, been a thing that's kept Steven Stamkos' floor up throughout his career, right? This isn't a guy that was a 100-point player throughout his career. Yeah, he approached there, especially early on in his career, but he's more of a 80 to 90-point player, right? And that was with big power play numbers, 30-plus power play points. Well, Nashville is dead last in the league in power play percentage, right? So if I really think that's again, it's kind of similar to Seider. We're losing Stamkos's production at 5-on-5. That's kind of just going maybe age related, maybe new team. He doesn't have the right people that he's playing with. And then he's not getting anything on the power play either. So it's not looking very good. I'm holding him in one spot because it's a really competitive league and the waiver wires are bare, right? I'll take the upside play with someone, again, who you said is power play 1. He has been good in the past. There's all indications that he should, he's not over the hill. This guy's only 35. Yeah. So it's just a team. I think, I don't know. That team, I feel like Andrew Burnett is, could be in some trouble here soon. I feel like maybe they're going to blow it up, rebuild. It reminds me of the Canucks, only they're ahead of the Canucks. Oh God, but they don't have Quinn Hughes. They have a damaged Roman Yossi. So, but very similar teams. I don't know. To me, just really not generating a lot out there.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for sure. Blake, I need to ask you a much more important question now. Do you think there is a curse for all center, left wing, right wing eligible players on Yahoo? Because I'm just thinking about this. We are excited about a lot of these players. Pavel Buchnevich comes to mind. Kent Johnson comes to mind.
Yep.
Ryan Donato, who we spoke about earlier, comes to mind. He's been scoring the last little bit, but probably he's been off of people's line, like off their fantasy teams already because of the deployment that he'd been getting. And we've got Steven Stamkos here. Like, obviously Seth Jarvis is immune to all things because of his personality. I think we can all agree about that. But what do you think about the center, left wing, right wing curse?
I don't know. I'm still with it. Like, am I so out of touch? No. It's the children who are wrong. Okay. No, triple eligibility is an amazing thing. And like, I think I got Stamkos in like the 12th round in one spot. I was like, this is an absolute smash. I'm going to win my league. Give me the trophy now. All right. And hasn't really worked out that way. But yeah, I don't know. Does Stamkos even play all three positions? For God's sake. I think Yahoo, there's a bunch of Yahoos over at Yahoo. Shout out to Yahoo Fantasy Hockey there. Yeah, really well-run business.
But, yeah, we love that additional paywall for no additional
It makes absolute sense. Yeah, you know what? Why not? Right? If you can just get a little bit more money from the people, why not? You know what I mean? You only live once, right? YOLO.
Yeah. Yeah, I think instead of the like, rate, review, subscribe at the end, we'll just tell people to go rate Yahoo Fantasy 1 star on whatever your app store is, iOS or Android, wherever you're at. But yeah, just go give them a 1 star and tell them how you feel about them paywalling basic features. So that's where I'm at on that. Sam Bennett next up. 1 assist in his last 17 minutes. He has not really gotten any extra minutes. The underlying numbers are terrible for Sam Bennett. 282nd in shots per 60, 274th in individual expected goals for per 60, 209th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. He has just 2 points in 10 games on the season. Blake, what are we doing with Sam Bennett now?
I feel like we kind of backed ourselves into a corner. If you picked up Bennett, and certainly if you picked up Bennett at maybe higher than you probably should have, like you kind of got to wait it out at this point. I mean, I'm not saying you can't drop him or anything like that, but I think with the injuries that they've had here, we all thought that Bennett was going to get, kind of a more opportunity. And also he just won the Conn Smythe. Like this guy played unreal when it really mattered. So why would that not transfer over? But it just hasn't, right? And I think part of the reason is when you got guys like Matt Tkachuk and Barkov out there, Bennett is just an afterthought. You're not like, we got to worry about Sam Bennett tonight. But if Sam Bennett is the 1C, it's like, well, then we could pretty easily shut Sam Bennett down. I don't know. Like he's obviously a chucker, right? And he's not the 1C. We got Anton Lundell. We got some other pieces there. But I just think that, Bennett has been able to kind of go under the radar a little bit and rely on the talent from his line mates. Whereas now he's the guy. We're expecting you to be the guy, my man, and it's just not happening. So I think for him to do a little bit better, he's got to play with the Sex Panther. We got to load up. We got to get Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Reinhart. Let's get to biz. But yeah, it's rough. I am surprised that the metrics are so stinky, right? Because this is a chucker, right? He's like an Owen Tippett kind of player, right? Big hits, good pims, and it should be lots of shots in Corsi 4. And that's not really happening here this season. So I don't know. It's painful for Sam Bennett owners. I don't have him anywhere. Did you get Bennett anywhere?
No, he was always going too high for me. We drafted most of our leagues late when the Barkov news had already come out in most spots. So, everybody was chasing Bennett up, and I didn't really change my projection on him at all. And I'm feeling a little bit vindicated in that at the moment. Of course, now that we've said this, he'll have some incendiary hot streak just to spite us. But I think the most logical explanation for Sam Bennett is that it's the fantasy hockey gods coming back at him for what he did to Anthony Stolarz in the playoffs.
Dink.
Yeah, little rhymes with which. Yep. Easy A reference for you there. Ooh. All right, let's continue
Mitch.
on.
That's what we call my friends. It's not a rhymes with which. It's a man that rhymes with which. So we call him Mitch. This guy, look at this little Mitch over here. You know what I'm talking about?
Very nice, very nice.
I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm sorry, folks. We've transcended into a PG podcast. This used to be G. The children could listen now. I don't know. I don't know. Are you appreciating this sort of transition, Nate, or do you want to kind of bring it back?
I don't know. I think we're in like a PGA, PGA, PG-10 category currently.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
it's in between PG and
We're there. It's
PG-13.
okay.
You know,
We want people to
somewhere
be
in
able to
there.
listen in their cars with their kids. All right.
Right. Yeah.
Unless they're little
Something like.
Mitches. All right. Then you got to get them out the side. All right.
All right, let's continue on. Alexis Lafreniere. This is a puzzling one. I was pretty
Yeah.
excited about
Me too.
getting Alexis Lafreniere in a spot or two this year. One assist in his last five. Nothing in this game that's currently ongoing against Calgary right now. Just over 19 minutes average time on ice. 277 shots per 60. 166 individual expected goals for per 60. The on ice stuff looks good. Like 18th in Corsi 4 per 60 and 38th in on ice expected goals 4 per 60. Yeah, that'll happen when you play all of your minutes, every single one, alongside Artemi Panarin for the most part. In this game here against the Flames, he's got moved now to align with Mika Zibanejad and Connor Sheary. And surprisingly, that hasn't quite jump-started his offense. Can't imagine why. Anyway, I am really struggling now with what to do with Lafreniere because I still think like it's big minutes. It's still power play one. I do think the Rangers will start to score more goals, and Trocheck being out obviously hurts that line with Panarin that has had so much chemistry in the past. And so theoretically, it should get better. But like, how long do we hold on here? I'm running out of patience for Lafreniere, especially with his individual numbers being so bad.
Yep. I mean, he's not a must hold by any means, but it was a player that I was getting kind of excited about when the Rangers were generating more offense. And that's, again, similar to last year. That's been the surprise at like their power play is terrible again this year, 26 overall in power play percentage. And their actual goals for is 28th at 5-on-5. What the hell? You got Panarin out there. You got Miller out there. Even though Trocheck's out, you still got some pieces here. And it's these last 5 games for Lafreniere that have really kind of dragged him down because that was a player I was steaming up a little bit because I liked the underlying metrics, even though he wasn't getting points. And then he did get moved up to the top power play. But, it's gotten worse. So I don't think it's a must hold at any point. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the Rangers for sure. Like, I mean, they're losing 3-1 to Calgary as we speak. This is Sunday night. Like, that's a tough look as well. Because I remember Mika Zibanejad, he did an interview and he's like, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. And I felt what he was saying there because that team was generating a ton of offense. But that was then and this is now. I feel like they're kind of like it's just not a good situation there, right? The vibes are getting bad again. They had such a bad year last year, and Mike Sullivan hasn't had a great start here. So we'll see what happens. Definitely not a must hold, but I love the Rangers playoff schedule, right? That was something I was so excited that maybe we could get a player like Lafreniere who could maybe establish himself on power play one and then maybe hold it after players like Trocheck comes back. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
No, agreed. Definitely not a must hold. You can move on if you need to. All right, a couple of underachieving top defensemen here. Zach Werenski is just one assist in his last 5 games, still 25 and a half minutes average time on ice, still getting all of that. But 58th in shots per 60 amongst defensemen in the last 5 games here. I know he plays a lot of minutes, but he was consistently tops in that metric a year ago, and 65th in individual expected goals for per 60. The on-ice stuff is actually pretty good, 14th amongst all defensemen in on-ice expected goals for per 60. So that part still looks pretty good for Werenski. And on the season, his individual numbers are much better. It's really just these last 5 games that have really dragged him down. So I don't know. It's not a good trend, but like it's pretty hard to be worried about Werenski when he's still obviously such an integral part of this team and of everything they're trying to do offensively all the time. I do think he is still an elite player. I don't think I would draft him any differently based on this kind of slow start here currently. But that's not to say that I'm not like, hey, what's going on here? I'm paying attention now, basically, is where I'm at. How about you?
Yep, me too. I talked about him a little bit on the Over Under show that released on Friday, but I'm even further galvanized into my opinion. I'm making my narrative a reality here, Nate, but he's still playing with Denton Mateychuk, right? And like if you look at Mateychuk and what he's been able to do the last 5 games, 17th overall in shots and goal per 60, right? And Werenski is 58th. But on the season, Werenski is 4th overall and Mateychuk is 43rd. So I feel like this is a pairing that they've kind of been going with lately, and it changes the look of what Werenski's required to do out there, right? He has to be a little bit more of the anchor, so a player like Matejchuk can go out and run around a little bit. And before that, like, it was Dante Fabro with Werenski, who he was the stay-at-home, and Werenski could fly around. So, I don't know that it's better or worse for the actual team, but for fantasy, if Werenski's not the key guy, driving play here, yeah, it could be like a season that's more of a 60-point season instead of a 70, 75-point season, or an 80-point season, which, he was able to do last year. So I'm mildly concerned, but it's still early, and I love the ice time. I mean, he's got power play. I love Kirill Marchenko, right? I love Boone Jenner. I think there's so many pieces. Like, the environment around is decent enough for him to get the biz, but I'd like to see what they do, with this pairing. Are they going to keep with Matejchuk moving forward? Like, what do you think about that, Nate?
Yeah, I struggled to understand why they went away from Fabro after it was such a good pairing last year. Like, maybe Fabro's had a bad start to the year. I don't know what he's done, what he did to Dean Evison over the summer. Maybe too many prank calls to his house. I don't
How
know what
dare
happened
you?
there. But yeah, it is pretty puzzling to try to figure out why all of a sudden you would not be into what that pairing was able to do for you last year when it was basically the best thing you had going all of last year.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, hopefully they figure it out one way or another. I mean, this is the best environment that Zach Werenski has ever been in. Columbus is fifth in all strengths, Corsi 4 per 60, and scoring chances 4 per 60. They're generating a ton, and yeah, theoretically, it's a better spot than ever for him to do what he does best. It just hasn't happened so far this year. I think I wouldn't change anything about what I'm thinking about Werenski just yet. Let's move over and talk about Mackenzie Weegar, who is pointless despite 4 goals now for the Calgary Flames against the New York Rangers. Weegar has had a really tough run. He has just 1 assist in his last 5 games coming into this game here tonight, just 2 assists in the 9 games on the season. Over 25 minutes average time on ice in those last 5 games. 81st in shots per 60, though. That's been something he's consistently done in the past. 134th rather in individual expected goals for per 60. And despite that, having a decent on ice environment here. 33rd Corsi 4 per 60, 46th on ice expected goals for per 60. So where are we at with Weegar, and what do you think his upside is rest of season at this point, Blake?
I'm glad I don't have him anywhere. I wasn't really a big fan of how early Weegar was being drafted, because I wasn't sure about the power play one. You and I both talked about that, thinking Zane Parekh could eat into that. And lo and behold, folks, 10 games into the season, that's what Zane Parekh has done. Zane Parekh, in this game here, where they're winning 4-1, he has power play one locked down. So, yeah, that's going to snip some right off the top. I mean, Weegar had 21 points on the power play last year and 47 points on the season. So I think we're approaching like more of a Moritz Seider type territory here, but maybe even less, because if he's not going to get power play one, yeah, we're in a little bit of trouble here with Weegar. So hopefully you have some good banger waiting, because he is going to do that. This guy's going to crush the periffs no matter where he lines up. He's getting good deployment still. It's just, yeah, it's that power play. And, in that season too, where he got 52 points, he had 20 goals. That was unreal. Like, that is an outlier. That's not something we can ever expect Weegar to probably do again. So I'm not here for this. I think hopefully he didn't draft him too high, because I don't think that those points are coming back. And if he doesn't have power play one, like, it's going to be a rough look.
Yeah, I do have Uyghur in one spot. That was like a couple tier 1 auction drafts where he was actually a decent value.
Yeah, what'd you
And
pay?
there weren't, I think it was 35 maybe. But like, I didn't have a big projection for Uyghur. It's not like that was due to some massive projection I had from him. I have him for 11 and a half goals, 45 points, 15 points on the power play, under 200 shots, 214 hits, and 195 blocks.
Yeah, it's the
And that all,
blocks there. Yeah.
yeah, that all adds up to really good numbers for him. This is with 23:45 average time on ice. So he's actually over the average time on ice figure. But yeah, the reason that I was shying away from him in most spots where the cost was higher, and in all my snake drafts, he was like going in like the 3rd round, and
Yeah.
I was not here for that kind of price. But when I was getting him at more of like a 4th round ish evaluation in that league, then I was a little bit more interested in that value, especially because in that particular scenario was looking for a defenseman, and it all kind of lined up that way. But yeah, it is a bit of a weird spot. for Uyghur. He's losing the power play here. The power play is not like necessarily popping off, you know. It hasn't scored any of these 4 goals here tonight for the Calgary Flames. So yeah, I don't know how long that sticks or if that sticks all year, or what the case may be there, but it was always part of the equation with Mackenzie Weegar that you had to take into account. And we're seeing earlier than I even thought why you might have to take that into account. So yeah, rest of season projection is probably in the 40-ish point range, 35 to 40 point range. I still think he can be fantasy relevant, but definitely it takes away the upside case if he's not playing on power play 1. All right, that's it for have-nots. If we didn't talk about a player you want to hear about, then you should hopefully join me for Monday's 9 p.m. EST live stream of Puzzling Players. So the situation is I'm traveling for work. I'm going to do my best to do a setup at the hotel with some modified equipment, little headset, little call center headset, and see if I can't get a live stream off for the people. If I can't do that, then I will at least answer the top players, at least in the Discord. I will reply to the top players there and answer people's questions about those puzzling players in that way. But I'm going to do my best to be live streaming 9 p.m. EST. So join the Discord, get in there when I put the call outs, answer with the players that you want to see talked about one way or the other.
Can you do the stream in the hotel robe? All right, like just slightly open so we can see the chest hair, just puffing out. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a request.
Okay.
You don't have to answer now, but hopefully tune in tomorrow, folks, to see if Nate actually does it. All right, we got to check this robe out. Satin, just only the finest linens touch this man's body.
All right. Well, let's move along to a new segment called The Environment.
Love it.
This one shouts out to Jordary in the Discord, who is asking if we could dig in a little bit on some team situations, team environments, line situations, line environments, stuff like that. So first foray into this for us here. Tale of two teams here, St. Louis and Calgary. Calgary having a nice little night for themselves here, but previous to this, it had been pretty obvious what was going on. Calgary 1-7-1 coming into this game here against the New York Rangers. St. Louis not doing that much better, 3-4-1. I'm going to run through a bunch of stats here just to kind of give a flavor of where these teams are both at. So all strengths off the top. So power play, shorthanded, even strength, wherever it may be. St. Louis ranks 25th in the league in Corsi 4/60, shot attempts per 60, 22nd in scoring chances 4/60, but up at 13th in shooting percentage. Calgary actually ranks 9th in Corsi 4/60, 10th in scoring chances 4/60, but 32nd dead last in shooting percentage. 5v5 with score adjustment factors. So obviously Calgary has trailed a lot of games, and that often has a major effect on, shot generation where you start to play a more offensive style. And so there is a bit of an adjustment that you can do in Natural Stat Trick. They have a drop-down menu item for that. So this is that particular drop-down menu. St. Louis 21st in Corsi 4/60, 10th in scoring chances 4/60, and 13th in shooting percentage again. Calgary is 8th in Corsi 4/60, but 16th in scoring chances 4/60, and still 31st in shooting percentage. Yep. Then on the power play, which I think is also a really interesting thing to talk about with these two, St. Louis 32nd in Corsi 4/60, 31st in scoring chances 4/60, but 3rd in shooting percentage. And Calgary 21st in Corsi 4/60, 8th in scoring chances 4/60, but again 27th in shooting percentage. So basically, you might look at this and say, wow, Calgary is generating a ton of chances, a ton of looks. They're actually looking pretty good under the hood in terms of the actual looks they're generating. They're just getting extremely unlucky in the shooting percentage, worst in the league in shooting percentage. That should regress somewhat, even if they aren't a great team. That should regress somewhat, and they should be better. And by the other token, you should look at this and think, yeah, maybe St. Louis is just running really hot. They're not generating much, especially on the power play. Just they're shooting the lights out pretty much, and that's how they're getting the 3 wins that they do have, and it could actually get even worse for St. Louis. But I think there's another layer, I guess, of evaluation that I would approach this with is what did we expect when, like, going back to when we talked about all these teams in the offseason, what did we expect for these teams? And I'll start there with you, Blake. What was your expectation for these two teams? Are these the kind of numbers? What's the most surprising number here? Are these numbers in line with what you were thinking? Let's talk through this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, we knew, I think, that Calgary was going to be a low event team. They were going to have a hard time generating offense, right? They roll like they feed guys like Mikhail Backlund and Blake Coleman like 20 minutes a night, 18 to 20 minutes a night. I mean, that's not a recipe for scoring a bunch of goals, folks. But I don't know. I think so far the interesting piece is that St. Louis power play that you mentioned there, like with the lack of offensive generation there, that's really rough stuff, right? But the shooting percentage high, so it's kind of band-aiding the the stats if you're looking at it from the outside, but that is concerning. I did feel more comfortable though with St. Louis going into the year because of Jim Montgomery, because of his sort of offensive mind and what he brings to the table. I think he's a really good offensive coach. And I remember, I can't remember the exact episode I was talking about it, but St. Louis and their numbers that we look at, things like Corsi for and scoring chances for, they're low, but they're more of a quality over quantity type team. So the chances they are generating are really high danger from dangerous areas of the ice. And that's why they convert at such a high level. And they have for a few years now, right? We're not seeing that so much here this year. I mean, 13th, like you said, in shooting percentage, that's fine. But those scoring chance numbers make sense to me at 5-on-5. But yeah, it's the power play. That's going to be really stinky. You got Cam Fowler on the back. Like, I mean, that's where we're at, right? Like, also, what are you doing? Like, it's about time they give Jordan Kyrou some run. Like, get him on the top line and let's see Jordan Kyrou, the 20-minute Jordan Kyrou, because they're doing it with Booch. They're doing it with Rob Thomas, who's now injured. We got to see Kyrou out there. I think he could make a big difference. But yeah, the Calgary Flames stuff, I feel like it's just going to be, it just reminds me of a team very similar to the Canucks, right? Get your hard hats on, get out there, try and outwork the other team. But in terms of offensive flow, it's just not there. And I think that, yeah, it's really the talent. Like they can't put the biscuit in the basket, right? Who's doing it? They're scratching Matt Coronado, for God's sake. The one guy on the team who I think has the best shot at doing that, right? So I don't know. It's all long-winded, but we're trying to figure out the segment, folks. What do you want? All right.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to just think about where we are at. So to me, this is not that far off where I thought St. Louis would be in terms of most of these things. I think I was hoping for a little bit more efficiency based on what we saw down the stretch last year and how well they were playing there. I'd say I was hoping for a little bit better from St. Louis across the board, but in general, I expected them to be a low chance generation but high efficiency team. And that has been the case under Montgomery. I think really it is just the power play that is the biggest problem here for them to not generate a lot of chances. Yeah, they're converting when they do get those chances, but it really just seems like the power play is not nearly as dangerous as it was last year. Based on these numbers, at least in terms of the raw chances that they're getting. They are shooting well, and all that is working, I guess, when they get the look that they're finally going for. But yeah, that's the issue that I'm seeing right now. Is it's just so hard to get big numbers when you're not getting you're not just generating the raw
that volume.
That volume is such a big piece to actually get over the hump. So yeah, it just ends up being a case where, like, they're still doing fine. They're ninth in actual conversion, 25% on the season, so it's fine. But this is a team that, with Rob Thomas at the wheel, like what they showed us down the stretch, you expected them to be even better. And I really do think the volume is the biggest piece of that. So I think there is potential for them to do better in the future if Rob Thomas is not too severely injured, of course. But yeah, that's the part that's kind of not working in my mind there. The rest of it is kind of in line with what I thought would be going on. Calgary, the high chance generation here is actually pretty interesting for me. Like, they're chucking pucks definitely a little bit more and a little bit less in terms of the efficiency, but like the power play being eighth in scoring chances for per 60, that's actually better than I expected. And Yeah, the shooting percentage is worse than I expected, but this is kind of just the team that they have. They don't have a tried and true scorer. We thought Matt Coronado was going to hopefully be that guy, and now they're scratching him, which, again, I don't understand it. You don't understand it. We don't pretend to understand it, but that's what we were hoping would. He would be at least that piece. Zane Perek maybe on the back end as a rookie, is he's able to contribute in a meaningful way, and that's how they would. That was kind of the ceiling case for Calgary, and what we're seeing right now is the what's the opposite of the ceiling case? The basement case.
Nice. The underground tunnel case.
That's what we're getting out of Calgary at the moment. Hopefully this 4-1 lead that they've got now with 5 minutes left in the third. Oh, it looks like it just went to 5-1. Yeah, just saw that. So hopefully it's a sign of things to come for them. Hopefully it doesn't mean that Matt Coronado gets scratched more often, but yeah, we'll see where we go from here. But definitely two really interesting teams, kind of opposite ends of the spectrum in some cases, but definitely worth taking a gander, seeing what's going on with them and what that means for them moving forward, what we can look for to see if things are improving or not for them as a team, for the environment, for those fantasy players moving forward. All right, let's go under the hood with a guy I like to call Jackson Blake because that's his name. Jackson Blake, first 8 games of the season, has 2 goals, 4 assists, 17 minutes, 4 seconds average time on ice. But the underlying stuff is looking quite tasty with Jackson Blake. He's 11th in shots per 60, 31st in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 27th in individual expected goals, 4 per 60, 19th in on-ice scoring chances, 4 per 60, and 59th in on-ice expected goals, 4 per 60, and garnering a very healthy 35% expected goals percentage. Basically, his percentage of the expected goals when he's on the ice. Has been getting these top power play looks there in Carolina due to Svech being just in a world-class doghouse from Rod Brind'Amour to start the year. So yeah, I am pretty into Jackson Blake at this point. It really does feel like he's taken another step in the early going here from even what we saw last year. I think it's pretty clear to me that Rod Brind'Amour does actually like this kid. That doesn't mean that he's going to get 19 plus minutes, but he, in my mind, I think there are tiers with Brind'Amour. There's like the Jarvis Aho tier, and then there's like a few players that he kind of likes in the middle. Most of those are like Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook, but then there's like the Andrei Svechnikovs, who he just absolutely detests. But I think Jackson Blake is closer to Jarvis and Aho than he is to Andrei Svechnikov in the eyes of Rod Brind'Amour, and that's at least given me some hope that there could be some long-term fantasy relevance for Jackson Blake, especially if he keeps up these kind of rate stats. You got anything to add on Jackson Blake here?
Yeah, just that I'm a fan as well. It's a player I've talked about a lot in the off season. We had a great conversation about him on our projections show, and I think it's coming home to roost, right? Like you mentioned all the individual stuff, like in terms of line stuff. I think the pair with Stankoven is really a nice piece with Jackson Blake because Stank is an amazing play driver, right? He's a great, like all the zone entries, all that stuff leading to chances. And meanwhile, Jackson Blake is an elite forechecker, right? This guy will go in, get the puck, and get it to these guys. And lately it's been Taylor Hall, who's another amazing puck rusher on a team that doesn't really rush the puck very well. So I just think, like, you look at some of the numbers here, their Corsi for percentage for Hall, Stankoven, and Blake is 61%, which is amazing. The expected goals for percentage for that same line is 62%. So they're just caving people in out there. They're driving a hell of a lot of offense out there. And at some point, that's going to start to click. And plus, he's getting power play 1 now out there. So I'm a big fan of the player.
All right. We'll leave it there for now. Let's recap the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. Unfortunately, we have another Blake W to report here. Zach Benson scored 15.1 APL fantasy points. Matt Coronado basically just did not score. 4.6 points, got himself scratched in the last game. That is about as bad of a run out as we have had in the head-to-head streamer deathmatch.
Sorry, buddy.
In its
terrible.
history. So yeah, Blake's up 2-0 next week. Blake, you've got Dmitry Voronkov, and I went with Kyle Palmieri. So yeah, Kyle Palmieri expect to get scratched by the end of the week.
Voronkov with 2 goals the other night. Oh, buddy,
getting it all out before the week
just getting
starts.
started, Nate. You know that.
All right. Well, that is going to be all that we've got for this episode. So join the Discord community. Don't forget to go give Yahoo Fantasy 1 star in the App Store. Hopefully this episode, amidst everything else that was going
Lawsuits coming. Yeah, we're about to get demoed by Yahoo Fantasy.
Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats here today came from Natural Stat Trick, terrific free resource. All the microstats here today. Did we mention any microstats in passing?
Yeah, I'll shout out advancedhockeystats.com. That they have Corey Schneider's microstats in there. It's a great website.
All right. And of course, many thanks to Blake's brother, Matt Creamer, for supplying the music for the podcast. That is it, folks. Much love.